afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. It's the first Thursday of the month, which means we're in the kitchen with Across the Fence. Before we meet our chefs with their favorite apple recipes, we have an interesting story to tell. On our August show, Lynn prepared a lemon blueberry chiffon pie. He'd found the recipe in an old clipping from the Burlington Free Press. Well, Lynn knew the clipping was the work of former extension nutritionist Cathie, but there was no date on the clipping, so no one was really sure exactly how old it was. Well, to the rescue came Chris Pope from Atlanta, Georgia. With research on the internet, Chris found that the clipping dates back to July 25th, 1966. Some super detective work there, Chris. Chris is a Vermont native who moved to Atlanta, but he tells us that he continues to watch Across the Fence via the internet. He says he loves the show and has been cooking with our recipes for more than 35 years. What a great story, and thank you, Chris. Now, more good news for Ruth Grant from Wilder, Vermont. Ruth is the winner of our free cookbook drawing, 200 Fast One-Pot Meals, which was donated by our own Carolyn Peake. Sorry, Carolyn. Congratulations, Ruth. You'll be receiving the cookbook by mail any day now. This month's lucky viewer will win How Do You Like Them Apples? It's a 127-page cookbook with more than 100 recipes. Most are illustrated with color photos. I'll let you know how to enter the free drawing at the end of the show. Now, to show us some of their favorite apple recipes, we have Carolyn Peake from Williamstown. And filling in for Deb and Lynn, who are taking the day off, we have Cathie Merrihew of Grand Isle and also Marco Ayala from South Hero. We're going to start with Cathie. Welcome to you. Now, I was told that you have celiac disease, so you do a lot of gluten-free cooking, and you're going to share some of your favorite recipes with us.
I am.
Well, thank you. Go right ahead.
Hello. I was diagnosed with celiac 10 years ago, so I've learned to bake with gluten-free flour. I have two different kinds here to show you. Both of these are used in the recipes I'm going to show you today. The first is King Arthur, measure for measure. And the second is Cup for Cup, which was the first one to come out. Both of these can be used with old recipes very easily, and I'm going to show you those recipes today. The first is an applesauce cake. Very simple cake, made with an old recipe. Butter, sugar, and applesauce blended together. I have raisins in this one, but they're optional. You can also use nuts or none if you prefer. It makes a really rich, moist cake. Very, very appetizing. You can also use that recipe for last-minute guests. It takes 30 minutes from time you prepare it to time it's done. The second I'm going to present to you is apple sour cream squares. I've cut a square out to show you. You line the bottom of a pan with a crumb mix. You pour apples cut with the skins on, sour cream and vanilla in. It's a very loose mixture, and top it with crumbs. What comes out is squares that can be served with ice cream or whipped cream. It can be heated, reheated very easily. It makes a really rich and interesting dessert. The last, or I should say third, is apple candy crisp. That's in this deep casserole dish. You need a really deep dish to make this come together, because when I put it together, it fills to the top and bakes down. The candy part comes because it's a lot of brown sugar and butter and not much flour, so it's really heavily crisped and very, very sweet. When I was a child, this was a special gift from my grandmother. The last is an apple dip. This is cream cheese, vanilla, and butter blended together to make a dip. A tip, and I didn't know this before Deb at Hackett's Orchard told me, these are Cortland apples, and they don't turn brown right away. They're easily cut, leave the skins on, and they're wonderful for somebody who wants a gluten-free, easily accessible treat in the afternoon. And now here's Carolyn.
Okay, well, those things look good, and I'm bound and determined I'm going to get one of those apple slices there that you're just, and some of the candy ones, because those just sound so good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and filling in for Deb and
All right.
showing us the recipes that you have.
It's been a pleasure.
Good. Then we'll know who to get back when it's time for somebody to fill in again.
Thank you.
Well, I have my apple recipes, and some things kind of surprised me. I never would have thought of using apples in some of the ways that they did. Well, of course, I've got my crock pot. I've always got my crock pot, and you can make your applesauce in a crock pot. You just cut up your apples, and you put in some water, a little bit of ground cinnamon, and a tablespoon of lemon juice. You let it cook for 4 hours or whatever until everything's soft. Then you can either just, if you like kind of lumpy applesauce a little bit, you can put the apples in and just mash them down with like a potato masher or something of that sort. You can do it that way, or you could take it out and run it through a food mill to make it really soft and smooth. Just about anything. You could use an immersion blender or anything to just make it up so that it's more whatever you like the best. There's no sugar in this, and if you're using a fairly sweet apple, you're not going to miss it. My next one that surprised me was meatloaf made with applesauce. And I'm going to just see if I can get a piece out onto my plate here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just stab it. There. So you can see that you have a regular meatloaf, and just, you cook it in your meatloaf pan. It's Hamburg and a mix of things like breadcrumbs and that sort of thing. Plus, there's a half a cup of applesauce in it. So that's kind of a different, strange sort of way to make meatloaf. It's amazing the things that you'll find when you go looking through cookbooks or looking on the internet for different things. Now, if you want something for breakfast, we have an apple dumpling French toast bake. Technically, this should be warm, but I didn't get the chance to, oops, that's the wrong container. I didn't get the chance to get it warmed up this morning. But it's just sort of like a bread pudding almost. And it's made with broken up crescent rolls. So you can just make that up. You soak the pieces of crescent rolls in the egg mixture, and again, it has the apples this time cut up, chopped up. So it's a nice way, and it would be a really nice breakfast, I think. You could probably leave it soaking overnight even. The next is my viewer recipe, and this is from Edie Ackerman, who I guess must keep Lynn totally supplied with recipes because he's always got one for me from her. And these are glazed apple bars. Very simple to make. You just have your usual things like butter and brown sugar and flour, medium apple chopped up, and you've got your nice dessert that you can put you put a glaze on top and you're all set. And last but not least, I have an applesauce cake, and this one has got nuts and dried cranberries in it. Now I need my little plate. Again, very easy to make, very quick to make, and then just sprinkle the confectioner sugar on it. So you're all set.
That cake looks so good that if I don't have to present recipes, I will get it from you and run away.
So if we don't see you at the end, we'll know you've gone.
I'm gone with the cake.
Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn. Well, I want to first give a shout out to Lynn Jarvis, who specially curated and selected all the recipes that I'm presenting today. He's very sorry he couldn't be here today, but you know these recipes will be good because, you know Lynn Jarvis. So anyway, I'm going to start with this apple ham bake. I gotta tell you, this is very much like a regular ham loaf, except that it has apples in it. So in here, there is, your regular chopped ham, well, actually ground ham, and then eggs and milk to bind it all together. But you top it with apples. And the secret ingredient here is a wonderful sauce that is made with honey and butter. And then that prevents the apple from over browning, and it gives it like really nice, sweet and savory taste. So I think that your family will love this recipe. Now, to go with a nice dish like this one, you also need a salad. So I'm going to start with this, getting this plate together. And this one is an apple carrot salad. Now, this is so easy to put together because you don't have to peel the apples, so that you get some extra fiber in there and you save some time. And if you start with pre-shredded carrots, then you save even more time. So, and the best part is that you put this over some greens, so you get your allocation of vegetables for the day. So then you put your apples in there, and doesn't that look like a nice plate? The secret ingredient here is lemon juice, which prevents the apples from over browning. So I recommend to first coat the apples with the lemon juice, and then you put in the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so this is your main dish. And I also want to say that desserts with apples are the best. And that's why I love fall, because then you have all those nice, beautiful Vermont apples, and it's cool outside. I love it. So nothing says fall like a really nice cookie with apples in it. And this one is a apple caramel cookie. And it's like all the fun of caramel apples, but in a cookie form. This one is made with, it's a very cake-like texture, and it has got tons of apples in there. It takes about 3 cups of apples, and I usually leave them in chunks so you can, like really have that little crunch of apple in there. And I gotta say, it's not the fastest recipe to make, but it's totally worth it. The nice thing about it is that it's one of the few recipes that I've ever made that makes exactly the number of cookies it promises, and you won't run out of frosting, so you can be very generous with it. So, and now I'm going to do a beer recipe, which was sent by Linda McCall. And I'm telling you, this is really good. It's called an apple pandawi. And Linda McCall from Bakersfield writes that this is kind of an old-fashioned recipe. You can see it right there. And you're probably thinking, Marco, that is not a pandawi. That is a cobbler. And it turns out that the difference between a pandawi and a cobbler is that it doesn't bake as long. So the fruit retains some of its crisp. And then you top it with this beautiful maple sauce. And check that out. Isn't that the most delicious dessert? And for my last recipe, Judy,
yes,
I have this cranberry apple slab pie. And it's so easy to make. It starts with a puff pastry, and then you put the apples in there. And the best thing is, it's on the go. You don't have to
it's portable.
Yeah, you don't have to have a plate to have your pie.
Perfect. Well, what a super collection of recipes. This is wonderful. And thanks to all 3 of today's chefs for preparing them for us. Now, as always, there are a couple of different options to get these recipes. You can go online to the Across the Fence website, go go to uvm.edu/extension and click on the link to Across the Fence. You'll find the recipes on the left-hand side of the web page, including our recipe archive that goes back to 2010. To get the recipes by mail, send $2 and a stamped self-addressed business-size envelope to Apple Recipes, Box 188, South Hero, Vermont, 05496. And please remember to include $2 and a stamped self-addressed envelope to the address on your screen. Your envelope will be used in the free drawing for the How Do You Like Them Apples cookbook. And even if you're not ordering today, you can enter the cookbook drawing. Just send along your name and address. Good luck to all of you. Well, for Cathie, Carolyn, and Marco, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back in the kitchen with Across the Fence on November 1st with harvest recipes. I can't wait for that. In the meantime, I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.